What's going on, everybody? I'm here on a very happy, for me at least, Saturday evening as the Celtics take a commanding. That's what you always say when you go up 3 games to nothing. A commanding 3 games to nothing lead uh, in the best of 7 series in the first round against the Nets, winning in Brooklyn 109-103. So if you're a Celtics fan, let's break down the game. How did they do it? Let's, have a little bit of celebration in the chat and feel really good about it. No team in the history of the NBA has ever come back from 3-0 deficit. So unless the Celtics have the biggest collapse in NBA history, which let's hope they don't, this series is, for all intents and purposes, over. But you'd never want to, pop the champagne until it's officially in the books. But if you're just looking at the body language of the two teams tonight, and especially the late game body language, you can tell that the Nets are ready to just 1, 2, 3 Cancun, pack this thing in and send it home. Especially their two stars. Kevin Durant looked miserable the whole time. Kyrie looked aloof. He looked like Kyrie in the first round series against the Bucks a couple years ago when he was in his waning days with the Celtics. Just not engaged at all. They seem to be pointing the finger at each other, at other people. They're no interest in playing defense for either of those guys. And for the third consecutive game in this series, Kevin Durant struggled, and for the second consecutive game in the series, Kyrie Irving struggled. Both of them uh, shot poorly from the floor. They combined for 32 points. Jayson Tatum single-handedly outscored the two stars of the Nets. And the Celtics took the lead early in this game, about a couple of minutes into the first quarter, and never gave it back. The Nets got to within one towards the end of the first half, and the Celtics. I'm just making sure these guys aren't all crooked. The Celtics just were never going to give that lead back and coasted all the way to a victory and to go up 3-0 in a series that nobody had the Celtics going up 3-0. Nobody had the Celtics on the precipice of a sweep. Nobody really had the Celtics even in 5 in this series. More people had the Nets in this series. I did pick the Celtics. I said the Celtics in 7. That's not looking like it's going to happen. But most people picked the Celtics if they were going to win in 6 or 7. And most people had the Nets in 6 or 7 in this series. And that's what the Vegas odds said. That's what the ESPN experts picked. And the Celtics I think, took that personally and are proving everybody wrong and have played really, really great basketball for 3 games now with very little lulls. The worst basketball they played was in the first half of the first game. And they were able to overcome that. Thanks in part because everybody is playing their role. And when their star players aren't stepping up, they have a guy like Grant Williams or Peyton Pritchard knock down a big shot, or Daniel Tice play well. Al Horford's been outstanding in the series, though he didn't have much of an impact offensively tonight. His defense, he still brought it, and his ball movement is tremendous, and you have to respect him in the paint and on the perimeter. And he blocked a couple shots tonight. They brought Rob Williams back for limited minutes tonight too. So really clicking on all cylinders. And everybody seems to know what their role is and is playing their role to perfection. So if you look at how excited the Celtics teammates are for each other, and then you look at the Nets and what their body language is, you could tell why one team in the series is up 3 games to nothing. Is the Celtics are playing basketball. They're playing team basketball. They're taking advantage of mismatches that present themselves when the Nets sub in a minus defender like a Blake Griffin. They hunt out those guys. And the Nets just play basically, let's give the ball to Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving and hope they make something happen. They play basically a pickup basketball. And the Celtics, while maybe Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown aren't quite the star power of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, though they are rapidly approaching that, it seems like they're playing more within themselves and more of a team game. And the Celtics have enough talent they can say, we're going to play a team game. And the Nets can't just say, well, we have more talent in this team with our 2 best players. Are we going to be able to pick up and beat them? They're not going to be able to do that. And they haven't been able to do that through 3 games. And I know the storyline in Game 4 is going to be is Ben Simmons is making his return. Uh, they're down 3 games to nothing. The guy hasn't played a single minute. He hasn't even played 5-on-5 in practice yet, and they're going to bring him in down 3 games to nothing. I just don't understand how that's beneficial for Ben Simmons, beneficial for the Nets. I have no idea why they would do it. We'll see if they are going to change their plan, but I mean, it seems idiotic, but yeah, the Celtics are rolling right now, and it's on offense and it's on defense, and they're playing with such confidence. Um, Not just their stars. It's again their role players who are playing with confidence, and that's team camaraderie, that's chemistry, that's coaching, and all things that you look opposite their bench at the Nets that they don't have right now. They don't have a coach. Steve Nash isn't making any adjustments, doing any coaching. They don't have camaraderie. Guys are yelling at each other, pointing fingers. They're not spacing the floor properly. They're not putting in any effort defensively, and they certainly don't have team chemistry. It's a bunch of guys that have been thrown in together and hoping it works around Kyrie and Kevin Durant. And certainly, you can't expect someone like Ben Simmons to come in and have chemistry with these guys, having played 0 minutes with them in his life. Um, so yeah, it's a completely the tale of 2 different teams right now, and it's remarkable considering that at Christmas the Nets were the 2 seed and the Celtics were the 11 seed, and the Celtics looked like they're headed in the crapper, and the Nets looked like they were on the march to a possible finals appearance and championship appearance. But it's just since then it's gone in completely opposite directions. And remember, these 2 teams played each other in the first round last year, and the Nets swiftly took care of the Celtics in 5 games. It would have been 4 games had Jayson Tatum not dropped a 50 burger in one of those games and staved off the sweep. But while Jaylen Brown didn't play in last postseason, it's still the same 2 teams, and yet the Celtics are looking like the far superior team, and they're playing like a 2 seed, and the Nets are playing like a 7 seed. And though everybody's saying got to avoid the Nets, got to avoid the Nets, the Celtics took on the challenge and said we're just going to keep playing good basketball down the stretch. We'll play who we play. We're going to try to get the best seed possible. At this moment, up 3 games to none in this series, that seems to have paid off tremendously for them. And if they can wrap this series up in 4, they'll have plenty of rest. Milwaukee is dealing with injury to Chris Middleton, George Hill, so they're not 100% though. They wiped out the Bulls the other night. They're up 2 games to 1, but there's a possibility that the Celtics end up sweeping the Nets and getting a lot of rest before and get Rob Williams more healthy before playing what I would imagine would be the Bucks. So you don't want to look ahead too much, but it has broken somewhat favorably for the Celtics. You never want to see anybody go down to injuries, but in terms of people thinking that the Nets would make quick work of the Bulls, and I guess they still could, and then the Celtics would be in this protracted, prolonged series. Right now, neither of those things look like they're going to come to fruition, and so credit to the Celtics, who've been just playing outstanding basketball and have met the challenge at every turn, and have seemingly demoralized the Brooklyn Nets, which, as a Celtics fan, couldn't make me or anybody, I think, any happier than to be the team that would knock out Kyrie and the Nets. I think would feel just amazing. So I'm looking forward to when the series is over with and the Celtics are officially moving on to the next round. I think we can all, light up a red Auerbach victory cigar and feel good about that, and then focus on the next round and keep, chasing that goal of a championship. But I think what you've seen through 3 games is that the Celtics coming into the postseason felt they were legitimate championship contenders and have played like legitimate championship contenders through 3 games. Them and the Warriors have been the 2 teams that have looked the best so far in the postseason. It's only round 1, and there's still a lot of not just games to be played, but storylines to play out. Players coming back from injuries, players getting hurt. You can't make a prognostication with any sort of confidence right now, but you can take the data that you've seen so far and you look in the West and you say, okay, I mean, the Warriors are really kicking the crap out of the Nuggets. You look at the matchup in the East and the Celtics and Nets, and everybody thought, okay, this is going to be a difficult series. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, the Nets had been playing very well heading into the postseason. And the Celtics 3 up and then 3 down. They taken care of the Nets in those 3 games and look to close this one out in Game 4 in Brooklyn. So let's get into the box score for both teams before we get into the comments. Talk about exactly how the Celtics won this game. because I do like to go a little bit more in depth than usual with these postseason games. Um, Celtics played a 9-man rotation tonight because of the returning Rob Williams. So a little bit different than their typical 8-man rotation. I would imagine this is what it's going to be going forward, is that they do play this 9-man rotation. Maybe Pritchard or White has their minutes eaten into. Maybe they don't play in one game or another game, but certainly in the case of Pritchard, he's earned his time, and we'll talk about him in a second as we get to the bench. But we'll start with the starters: Jayson Tatum, Al Horford, Daniel Tice, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. Jayson Tatum was just phenomenal tonight, the best player on the court by a country mile. Outplayed his counterparts in the Nets by significant margin. 45 minutes for Tatum, 13 of 29 from the floor, 4 of 13 from three, 9 of 10 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, a career high, 6 steals. He did have 6 turnovers, 4 fouls, and 39 points for Jayson Tatum. Al Horford, 28 minutes, only took 2 shots. They're both threes. He hit one of those. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 1 turnover, 3 fouls, 3 points. So it didn't contribute a lot offensively. They didn't need him to because the Jays were really going. And Horford was played outstanding defense, I thought, in this game too. Daniel Tice, 17 minutes for him, 4 of 6 from the floor, 1 of 2 from three, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 9 points. He's another guy that if Rob Williams is able to get up to the minutes he was playing in the regular season, maybe you don't see as much Daniel Tice, though I think he's earned his keep too and doesn't deserve to have his playing time decrease significantly because he's played well, both offensively and defensively. Marcus Smart, solid game for him. Didn't shoot the ball great, but did an excellent job on Kyrie Irving. Defended well. 6 of 15 from the floor, 2 of 10 from three, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, 4 fouls, and 14 points for Marcus. And Jaylen Brown, who came on incredibly strong in the fourth quarter and really carried the Celtics home in this one, along with Jayson Tatum. 38 minutes, 9 of 16 from the floor, 1 of 4 from three, perfect 4 of 4 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 turnovers, and 23 points, and did a really good job. They actually, towards the end of the game, or not, I shouldn't say the end of the game, in the fourth quarter, about midway of the fourth quarter, they had Jaylen running the point a little bit, and he gets mocked a little bit and teased on this show too for not being a great passer, and he's not, but he did have 5 assists tonight, and he did a really good job running the point position for a little bit of time because the Celtics wanted Tatum was out, he was in, and the Celtics wanted Brown to work his offense and find the right matchups. And the Celtics did a great job being able to either through switches or screens to be able to set Jaylen Brown up with whoever he wanted to have defending him. Sometimes it was Dragic, sometimes it was Seth Curry, sometimes it was Blake Griffin, and he was just electric in the fourth quarter. But it was shooting threes, mid range, driving. He had it all going, and that period of time where Tatum was out briefly, Brown just carried the team offensively and had a tremendous stretch to be able to put the Celtics at a far enough distance away to win this game. The bench played very well tonight, I thought, specifically Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard, who both had really good games in game two. Continued tonight. Grant Williams played 32 minutes. So he played starters minutes, though he didn't start. 3 of 7 from the floor, 1 of 3 from three, 5 rebounds, an assist, a steal, 1 turnover, 3 fouls, 7 points, and some really excellent defense. That can be said about everybody who played in this game, I thought. Robert Williams makes his return and played 16 minutes tonight. And I think you were just looking to see that the speed he was comfortable with, and if he had the bounciness, and he did. He only took 1 shot. He hit it. He did have an alley-oop, but they called it back for a foul on the floor, but he got skied for that. Did a nice job when he was in there defensively, blocked a shot. I think it was just getting him readjusted and acclimated to his game speed. And so in the 16 minutes, I think they got exactly what they wanted out of him. Just less about making an impact on the court, more about him getting back into the flow of playing a 5-on-5 competitive game. So 1 of 1 from the floor, 2 rebounds, assist, a block, and 2 points. I was glad to see that. At 16 minutes even seemed like a lot for him, but he held his own in 16 minutes. He finished with a +5. So the injury didn't hamper him and didn't hold the Celtics back at all in the 16 minutes he played. Derek White continues to not shoot the ball well, plays good defense, but if you have one guy that you're going to say hasn't really picked up the slack or he lived up to his end of the bargain. Derek White's probably been the worst Celtic in this series. I'm not saying he's played poorly, but for someone who has a big role, he's not stepped up quite yet. Still plenty of time, and I think that there's plenty of there'll be plenty of opportunity for him to have a big game and swing a game for the Celtics. They'll give him the chance, but he's got to shoot better. 1 of 3 from the floor, 0-2 from 3 tonight. Didn't get to the free throw line, which he's usually pretty good about doing. He did have 6 rebounds, which is excellent for a point guard. An assist, a steal, a turnover, a foul, and 2 points. And then Peyton Pritchard did most of his damage in the first half of this game. 12 minutes, 4 of 5 from the floor, 2 of 3 from 3, an assist, a steal, and 10 points as Pritchard continues to be a big difference maker, especially on the offensive end, where the Celtics are taking advantage of the Nets double teaming or triple teaming Tatum or Brown and finding Pritchard open for shots and saying, "We trust you to take and make them," and he's paid off, paid big dividends. Listen, they win this game by 6. Pritchard has 10 points. I mean, that's the difference. So the bench combining for 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 points. Massive for the Celtics. And in the first game, the bench didn't play well. And the bench has really answered the call in the games 2 and 3. Over on the Nets side, it looks a little bit uglier, with the exception of Bruce Brown, who's been fabulous in this series, and I believe is an unrestricted free agent. So he's earning himself some money. I'm happy for him because he's a local Boston guy. So good for Bruce Brown, though I wish he wouldn't play so well against the Celtics. He was the best player for the Nets tonight. Another game, their starters tonight were Durant, Bruce Brown, Andre Drummond, Kyrie Irving, Seth Curry. Another game where Durant and Kyrie logged over 40 minutes. Durant played 46 minutes in this game, which is just you can see he's breaking down on the court. It's just gassed. 6 of 11 from the floor for Durant, 2 of 3 from 3. Only got to the free throw line twice. He hit them both. Remember in game 2, he shot 20 free throws, so massive difference there. 8 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal, 5 turnovers for Durant, 3 fouls, and just 16 points. Kyrie Irving, likewise, just 16 points for him. He was dreadful shooting in this game. 6 of 17 from the floor, 0 of 7 from 3, 4-4 from the free throw line, 9 assists, 3 rebounds, 3 steals, a block, 2 turnovers, and 5 fouls. Kyrie was in foul trouble in this game. And so those guys combined for 32 and not very efficiently. Bruce Brown had 26 points, 8 rebounds. Andre Drummond, not very good in this game, 2 points, 3 rebounds. Seth Curry hit a couple of threes late, 10 points in 34 minutes. Off the bench, Patty Mills gave him a nice lift with 12 points. Nick Claxton played well off the bench too for them 13 points and 7 rebounds in 21 minutes. I would not be surprised at all to see Drummond not play at all in game 4 and Claxton get his minutes, or if they play Simmons, then Simmons just gets his minutes and they go a little bit smaller. Blake Griffin got his first burn of the postseason. He played fine, 8 points in 8 minutes, so he gave him a lift offensively, but he gave up more points defensively. He's just not good at all defensively. And the Nets lose this game 103-109, and the Celtics up 3-0. As far as the important battles in this game going, turnover battle, 14 turnovers for the Celtics, 18 for the Nets. The rebounding battle, which you always want to keep an eye on, especially as the Nets go small, 33 rebounds for the Nets, 34 for the Celtics. So you'd like to see the Celtics out-rebound the Nets a little bit more, but you win the game, so who cares? But the Nets did go small, and the Celtics didn't take huge advantage of that on the glass. But again, the Celtics did what they had to do, especially defensively on the 2 stars of the Nets. And I think they're perfectly fine with Bruce Brown having a good game if he's hitting open shots and they're double teaming and shutting down Kyrie and Durant. They tip their hat to Bruce Brown. So, if you're going to score 26 and we're able to shut those guys down, you're not going to beat us. Really, I think the game plan for the Celtics is continued to be the same, which is run on missed baskets and be physical on defense and move the ball on offense. It's nothing complicated they're doing. It's playing smart basketball and playing team basketball. On offense, they're not settling for bad shots. They're not taking shots really early in the shot clock just to take a shot. They're moving the ball around, trying to find the ideal matchups, setting screens, making the Nets switch to whoever their worst defenders on the court, because whoever the Nets have on the court, they're going to have some negative defenders. They're just not a good defensive team. The Celtics have figured out how to take advantage of that and either get Tatum in one-on-one situations where he's able to shoot over somebody or take him to the basket, or Brown, or find an open guy like Pritchard for an open bunny or a three. They're moving the ball and setting screens to a massive advantage, and the Nets have had no answer for that defensively. And they're also, again, they're getting out on missed baskets and they're running, and they are taking advantage of the tired legs on the Nets of guys like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who have logged, a dozen, 15 in a row, 40-minute plus games. And I think and they're gassed. And the Celtics down the stretch were giving Tatum a day off, or Brown a day off, or Horford 2 days off. And I think that's paying big dividends too. Huge credit to Ime Udoka, who managed the roster and the minutes perfectly down the stretch, to the point where the Celtics look like they're ready for a long postseason run, and the Nets look like they're ready to just lay out in the sun in Mexico somewhere. So that's been the strategy of the Celtics offensively. And defensively, talked about this last game, bother the Nets by being physical with them. If they're going to set screens, bump them off screens. If they're going to try to drive to the basket, be physical with them, bump them off their spots. Two different people contesting on Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving, knock them down to the floor, make the ref blow the whistle. The Celtics are not going to let the Nets get comfortable in any situation. They're not going to let Kevin Durant get to his spot without getting hit first. They're not going to let Kyrie Irving drive to the basket without hitting the floor. They're just, every situation that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving can be made to feel uncomfortable, the Celtics are going to do that, and they switch and rotate so well. And you'll see, as Rob Williams plays more minutes and gets worked back up, he's one of the best in the league at that, because he covers so much ground. But also guys like Grant Williams have worked on his footwork tremendously and have been able to they're able to have guys come off the bench and do play the same type of defense as the guys who start, because they're all so used to switching and moving laterally. And it's frustrating the Nets, and the Celtics are willing to give the role players of the Nets some open looks, as long as it means that Kyrie and Kevin Durant don't get going. And that's why you've seen Bruce Brown have good games the past 2 games. That's why you've seen Goran Dragic have an impact in last game. He was terrible tonight. And Patty Mills gets open looks, and Seth Curry. Like, those guys can knock down threes, but the Celtics are okay with those guys feeling in rhythm and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving not. They're going to just keep playing physical, and that's what their message has been. We're going to out physical you this series. Now, if they move on to the next round and they play Milwaukee, I'm not sure that strategy is going to work. Milwaukee's a very physical team too, so it'll be interesting to see. Again, prognosticating, which I don't want to jinx anything, but that's how I think it's going to play out now, as you'll play Milwaukee. It'll be interesting to see how the Celtics adjust. Milwaukee's a team that's also in very good shape, like the Celtics, and they're very, very physical. You saw that what the Celtics are doing this year to Brooklyn is similar to what the Bucks did when they eliminated Brooklyn last year. Giannis is one of, if not the most physical players in the league. So Brooklyn likes to play this. Milwaukee likes to play the style. The Celtics will have to change it up a little bit if that's their opponent in the next round, if they get there. Again, knock on wood, don't want to jinx anything. So we'll have to see. I think that the Celtics are going to just keep sticking with this strategy until they do knock off the Nets. Expect to see physical basketball. Expect to see them running on missed baskets. Expect to see them trying to target specific defenders on the Nets. And then defensively, like I said, just physical. And Rob Williams just adds another dimension to the Celtics as they continue to go here. Let's go into the comments here. Glenn Caesar and Leonard Kim, the usual suspects, my buddies. Glenn starts out by saying, "Hey, Jet, yeah, I think the Celtics got this in 5, maybe even a sweep of all 4. I don't think I've seen KD look like this in a long time. Yeah, I think it's fatigue. I think it's frustration, and it's the way the Celtics are playing him. Certainly unprecedented for him to have 3 games in a row, and I think it's fair or not. It's having a lot of people reevaluate how they look at Kevin Durant. A lot of people say he's the best player on the planet. The best player on the planet shouldn't have a no-show for 3 straight games. Period. Celtics are playing phenomenal defense, but usually if you're one of the best players on the planet, you rise above it, and he hasn't so far. Whether it's fatigue, whether it's what the Celtics are doing, whether it's frustration with his teammates, a combination of all of them, he has not lived up to the lofty status people put at him. I'm not saying it should affect how people view him in terms of the breadth of his career, but right now, I don't think there's any reasonable argument to be made that he's the best player in the planet, because he is not done what is expected of a guy who has that title to do. Um, yeah, KD and Kyrie were wrong. They do need a coach. Yeah, remember that infamous quote that Kyrie had, they don't need a coach. Well, Steve Nash not being a coach has not helped this team one iota, especially as he managed the minutes down the stretch of the season. He ran those guys into the ground. It's looking like that right now. Nash has been out coached, absolutely. And Udoka deserves a ton of credit, has really become a fantastic coach for the Celtics. Leonard saying, I'm just happy Time Lord got some minutes and can be on the court. I totally, it's great to see him. Shocking that he's been able to recover this fast from that torn meniscus. But I do think tonight was less about seeing what he can do on the court in terms of how he works in the game plan and more about, okay, Rob, let's get you let's try to work you back in. Few minutes here, few minutes there. Feel what it's like to be back out in 5-on-5 in a competitive game environment again. And as we progress and hopefully get into the next round, then you start playing your regular, starters minutes again. Um, and then Leonard said Pritchard low key is giving the Celtics some valuable minutes. Love to see it. Yeah, and this was a guy who's buried on the depth chart at the beginning of the season, halfway through the season, and he's been immense for them in the past 2 games, knocking down not just the shots they're asking him, but they're big, timely shots. And I know the guy well because I watched him a lot when he went to Oregon, my alma mater. And this is what he was at Oregon. He was a guy who you could rely on for clutch baskets and showed no fear in big moments. And he's providing that on the NBA level, which is great to see. Not just because I'm an Oregon fan, and not just because I'm a Celtics fan, but because it's a guy who's worked really hard to overcome being buried on this team and looked like he was lost, and he's figured it out. And the coaching staff and his teammates have put a lot of trust in him, and it's paying huge dividends. Yeah, I mean, all good news from the Celtics front, really. All good news. Nothing to complain about. If you're the Nets and you're Nets fans, you're feeling pretty crappy today. You certainly didn't think you were going to go down 3 games to none. And Celtics, you're riding high. So the next game, and the Celtics can close this out on Tuesday in Brooklyn, 7 o'clock TNT. Hopefully the Celtics just sweep them right out of there, give them bragging rights, feel great about it, rest up, get Rob Williams some more rest, and get Tatum and Brown, everybody some rest as they go try to really make a real run for it, because it is wide open, and no team has been playing better than the Celtics. So they got to look at the scope of the NBA right now and look at and say, we can beat anybody. We have a legitimate chance of winning a championship right now based on how we're playing. If we keep playing this well, we have a legitimate chance. And the fact that I'm uttering those words on April 23rd, when I said this team was done in December, I'm believe me, I'm the happiest person in the world to have been wrong, but it is shocking. And I've never seen in the NBA a turnaround like this. And the amount of credit that the players and the front office and the coaching staff deserve is, you can't give them enough credit. So I'm excited. I hope this ride keeps going, and let's sweep the Nets out of it. But I'll be back to react after the next game, tell you exactly what happened, and hope everybody enjoys playoff games until then. And let's hope we enjoy the next Celtics game and we can sweep the Nets right out of here, and we don't even have to talk about Kyrie again. All right, everybody. See ya.